Hello and welcome to another Happily Letter After tutorial. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to be drawing a landscape. I've had requests for some more drawing tutorials, which is fine with me since I like to draw. So our canvas size that I'm using is 3000 by 2000 pixels. You can use whatever size you'd like, but if you're going to follow along exactly and use the same brush sizes and everything, then I recommend doing the same size. So I'm going to zoom out just a little bit by pinching with 2 fingers and squeezing in so I can see my entire canvas. So I have colors here that you can use, and I'll have the color palette available for you. It's this mountain landscape one. And all the brushes that we're using are actually going to be free brushes with Procreate this time. None of them are going to be ones that I've created, although you can use some of the ones that I've created. But I'm going to show you how to do this with the brushes that already come in Procreate. Okay, so first in our color palette, we're going to use this blue here. We're going to make our sky background. So we don't need to make a new layer because we already have layer 1 selected, so that's what we're going to use. So in our brushes, we are going to go to the airbrushing and use a soft brush. And I have the opacity at 75%, and I'm going to bump it up. Let me try 26% and see what that size is. That's pretty good. All right, and what you want to do is you want to just kind of go across slightly. We'll go on the top first and color it in. I don't want any white on the very top there. So I'm just filling it in a little bit here. We're making our gradient to make kind of like a sunset kind of background or sunrise. I'm not really sure. So we're going to use a yellow here for the next part. And we're just going to go across the bottom. And don't worry about getting it filled in too much at the bottom because we're going to put our mountains down there, so that's not a big deal. So let's just kind of blend it in. Make sure you get the edges. Blend it in nicely, and you can go with another second coat to make it a brighter yellow. You see it just pops real nice. And I'm going to go back with my blue, and I'm going to do the same thing, get a little more of that blue in there, kind of blend it back into that yellow a little bit more. And you can kind of go back and forth until you have it the way you like it. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to blend it even more. So we're going to hit this magic wand tool here, go to Gaussian blur, and just drag across the screen towards the right. I'm going to go for I'll do about 40%. I think that's pretty good. And then we can just tap the magic wand again and get out of that. Okay, so now we've got our sky background. And now let's start painting mountains. So what we're going to do is we are going to go and we're going to create a new layer on top of this one. And we'll go to our color palette. Let's select, so I have it organized by what is what here. So this is all the sky, and we'll get to all those. This is going to be your mountains, and this is going to be the mountains in the very front. So we're going to grab this kind of like salmon color. And in our brushes, we're going to go to the calligraphy brushes, and we're going to use monoline. If you wanted to use the brushes I do have a monoline like pen in there, so you can use that too if you'd like, but these are free. They just come with Procreate. Okay, so we're going to start kind of about halfway up our canvas. I have the opacity is at 100, brush size is about 13%. And this is like super easy. This is like beginner level landscape, so anybody can do this, honestly. This is super easy. So all we're going to do is we're going to start off on the side here, and we're just going to make some wavy lines. And you don't have to have any rhyme or reason for it. I have looked at lots of landscape mountain scenes recently to give me some ideas for this tutorial. So I recommend, if you need ideas on how to do your mountains, you look at some images online. We're just going to drag and fill. And so now we got our first layer of mountains. This is the background layer of mountains. And actually I feel like it's covering a little bit too much of my yellow. So I'm going to use my arrow, and I'm going to just kind of nudge it down a little bit here. I want more of my yellow to show. So that's preference. You don't have to do it this way. You can have it going as high up as you want, and you can have, and if you wanted to, you could have made your yellow in your background. Another thing you could do is if we two finger tap and go backwards, what we can do is we can actually nudge our layer up, because we're not gonna see that in the on the bottom anyway. So if you wanted more of that yellow, that's another way to do it. So I'm actually going to do it this way. I'm just going to leave it moving that sky. All right, so go back to layer 2, and we're going to hit the plus, and we're going to add our next mountain layer, and we're going to add details to everything later. So but these in the background, they're going to be kind of simple and plain. So we want to do one just underneath, and you can do you can have it peeking up a little bit if you want to in some spots, dipping down low. Just kind of have fun with it. You don't have to think super hard about this, just wavy line and drop, basically. All right, and we're gonna do that for the next color. So we're gonna keep going all the way across. So we're on the third color here now, this purplish pink. And we're just going to keep on drawing. There we go. All right, and we're going to do that one more time for the purples. We're going to get another... Actually, I'm going to make this one a little bit different. This one's going to be a little bit different than the others. What I want to do is, because I'm going to have a black mountain in the front, I'm going to have it kind of going over here and a little bit over here. So this purple mountain, you're not going to see much, not as much as the others. You're going to just see a little bit here, maybe a little bit there. All right, so now we're going to add our foreground mountain. And the way you can think about this with colors, if you're trying to pick colors, if you look at landscapes, you'll see that the darker colors are in front of you, lighter colors are further from you. So the darker is closer to you, and lighter is farther away. And if you've ever driven down the road and there's fog on the road, and you look at the trees, if you live in a rural area, I actually was thinking about this the other day as a great example. It was foggy, and you could see that it's lighter colored, you know, as you're driving, you know, as things are further away from you versus, you know, versus closer to you. They're more, they're darker. You can see them better. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to grab this. It's almost black, but it's not. And so we're going to grab that color, and I'm going to start up here, and I'm just going to make a black kind of mountain scape. I'm going to have it kind of dip almost off completely, and then it's going to kind of climb back up here. There. Okay, and again, we're going to fill this in. It doesn't look like much now. I promise you it will, okay? Hang with me, guys. All right, so we are actually almost done. Now we're just adding details. So this is super, super, super easy. And one of the things that we're going to do before we get into some fog to our layers is these are a little too clean, the lines on here. So what I want to do is I want to grab, we're going to start with our background mountain. So we're going to go back to our layer, and now if I can remember, I'm sorry, there are so many brushes. Let's see. Yeah, we're going to use the charcoals, and we're going to do the, I think it's the willow charcoal. Let me try that and see. All right, so what we're going to do, and don't worry, we'll fix this later, I promise. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to just go over the edges. I have this really small, it's at 2%, 100% opacity. So we're just going over the edges here. Another way you can do this is if you do the Gaussian blur. You can do a Gaussian blur in and the magic wand again if you want, just so that you can blur it that way. But I kind of like to add this little bit of extra texture, and it gives it kind of more of a feel like it's out of focus because it's in the background. Otherwise it looks too computer generated. Now, when I move my background, what I should have done is I should have had the snapping tool on, or magnetics on, so that it would have stayed on the side. I should have done that. So if you guys haven't started yet, or if you want to restart, you can, and do it that way. Sorry, I should have done it that way to begin with. So we're just gonna go over each mountain and just kind of go over the edges. It doesn't have to be perfect. Again, we just kind of want to make it look like it's blurred out just a little bit. That way it looks more like it's in the background. There. See, that looks much better already. Now I'm going to fix the sky before I forget. So I'm going to go back to this background layer, and I am going to go to, I'm going to go to the magic wand and liquify. And I'm using the push tool. I'm going to up the size a bit. I'm just going to push it. Make sure it didn't push on the other side. See? Okay. Easy fix. Can't even tell. It just pushed it back over. So that's an easy fix. Okay. So now back onto this layer. We're going to go ahead and we're going to do the same thing we just did for the other one. We still have that brush selected. So we're just going to go over. Like I said, I like the way this texture looks better than if we just use the Gaussian blur for everything. I like that it looks a little bit more like there could be foliage on it, maybe like some moss or something, or you know, like the rocks, maybe there's like little rocks and the light's shining through just a little bit, or it's the dirt or whatever it is. I like the look it gives. It makes it look, it's the little things, you know, that make a drawing or painting pop, you know. Like if you've ever watched Bob Ross, he does some like little things here and there that are amazing. So we're going to our third color here. Make sure you're on the fourth layer, and we're just gonna go over this one too. Honestly, I think this part is probably the most time consuming, but it's like the easiest because you are just tracing what you've already drawn. So it's not like you have to like, where am I going to put my mountains? Because you already got them down. It's just the most time consuming because you have to retrace. But drawing is very therapeutic in my opinion, and it's very relaxing, and it's a good de-stressor. This is a good project to do while watching a movie, watching TV, sitting by the pool. Just don't get your iPad wet. Oh, and speaking of, I've been asked before what my iPad is. I have an older iPad. I think it's one of the first generation of the iPad Pros. That's why I have the first generation Apple Pencil, the one that plugs into your iPad. And I have the 10.5 inch. I know everybody always goes on about size. What's the best size? Everybody says, go big or go home. Get the 12.9 inch, almost 13 inch one, whatever it is. And I'm like, for me, I literally spent hours, I kid you not, hours at the Apple store just holding iPads, because I started off with a 9.5 inch, and it wasn't a Pro, it was just an iPad that my mom gave me, and I wanted a Pro, and so I was trying to figure out what size I was going to get, and so I went to the Apple store, and I just kept holding them all, and I'm on a budget, so I did refurbished on Amazon, and so it was a lot cheaper. It was with my iPad case and pencil, I think it was like $700, so but this is the 10.5 inch, and I like it because I can fit it in my purse, and it's small, and I like compact. It's really preference, honestly. We're gonna do the same thing with our black mountains too, by the way, while I chat with you. So yeah, I wanted something that I could fit in my purse, take with me on the go, easier. I didn't want something that was like the size of a computer screen. I felt like for me that was too big, and I actually tend to draw and write really, really, really small. And so this works for me because I can zoom in, zoom out if I need to. But you also have to keep in mind when you're buying an iPad, if you don't have one yet, or if you're wanting to upgrade, the size does matter a little bit with resolution and how many layers and stuff you can do. For me, I have this is like 500 something gigs, so that's a lot actually. And so I have a lot of memory on here, and I haven't even scratched the surface. I'm not even like a quarter of the way full of my memory, and I've had this for years now, and I have a lot of games on here too. It's not just my art, but I have a lot of games, and I do a lot on my iPad, and it runs very smoothly, very fast. I don't leave a ton of pages open, you know. And so I do recommend, if you're on a budget, go for the older models. Go for smaller if you're comfortable with smaller. But get what's comfortable for you. Don't worry about what everybody else says. It really does come down to what you want. You want, in the end, oops, sorry, I was getting a piece of cat hair off my screen. In the end, it really comes down to what you're going to be comfortable using. Okay, so let's put some fog in here. So now that we've got, this looks so much better now that we got our texture on the mountains. So now we're going to go back, and I know it's a lot back and forth. We're going to go back to layer 2. We're going to add a new layer, and we're going to do clipping mask. If you haven't done clipping mask with me yet, clipping mask, what it does is it allows us to draw on top of this layer, but it won't go anywhere else, just on top of that one layer. So if we draw up here, it ain't gonna show up. The other way you can do it is if you click on your layer and you do alpha lock, but we don't need to do alpha lock. I like having it on a separate layer in case I don't like it, don't like how it turned out or whatever. Anyway, we're gonna use this color right here. It's kind of like it's not pink, it's not white, it's like an off pinkish color. And so we're gonna use the airbrush tool, the soft brush again, and I'm gonna turn it down. Let me try 10%. Maybe that's 9, I'm not really sure. Okay, and back in our layers, I'm gonna click the N here because we're having a normal. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna change it to soft light. And this is just gonna add a little extra for our fog. So just kind of start down on the bottom here, and then just kind of put more pressure on the bottom, and then kind of push up towards the top because you want to still see that color of the mountain, and just keep going all the way across. And if you want it a little bit lighter on the bottom, you can do another second coat there, just so it's a little bit lighter, because I still have the same opacity and everything. And if you want to just do a light, you can do a little light coating if you want to there. And we're going to repeat this process for each one with the same color, same everything. So add another layer, clipping mask, soft light, and now we're going to do this mountain right in front. And we're going to do it for every single mountain except our front mountain, the black one. We're not putting anything on that one except for some snowy, rocky details. And I'll show you that once we get to it. We'll get to it before you know it. All right, so add another layer. Do soft light. Clipping mask, doesn't matter the order you do this in, as you can see. Yeah, just give it that look. It's like this, like a mid or early morning, and there's all this fog on the mountains or something. And we're gonna go ahead and we'll do the same thing for this one. Add a new layer. Make sure you go down to soft light. And if at any time you feel like it's too bright, you can always adjust the opacity here if you want, or on the brush. It's usually easier afterwards. You just do it on here. but that's completely up to you. I'm fine with how it is here. But again, this is preference. Feel free to do whatever colors you want for your mountains too. And for your sky, maybe you have more of like a sunset instead of a sunrise look. I actually don't like that. I think it's a little too much fog. I'm gonna redo. I love the 2-finger tap. All right, I'm gonna subtly do it there. Build up a little bit more here. There, okay. All right, now we're gonna get to our mountains in the front. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna click on layer 6, add another layer, and you guessed it, we're clipping mask. Okay, we're gonna keep that color, and we are gonna go to, we're gonna have 2 different brushes that we're gonna use for our mountains. So the first one, if I can remember, oh my goodness, okay, it's in the textures, Dove Lake, okay, Dove Lake in the textures, and let me see if this brush size is good. Yes, this is good. Okay, so this size is at 15%. I have the opacity at 100, and I'm just going to lightly go over, and if you can see on the screen there, see, it gives it a rocky look. It's so pretty. Don't go too crazy, like don't get too much. You don't want too much detail, okay? And you want more on one side than the other, that's for sure. Like, so we'll pretend our light's coming kind of from up here. And so we're gonna do our lighter areas on the top right side. And over here, we can do a little bit too, only because the light will hit it a little bit at this angle. All right, so I like how that looks. Just because I like to work on separate layers. You can work on the same layer if you want to, but I'm going to do another layer, and I'm also going to use a clipping mask. And when you do a clipping mask with a couple in a row, it's not going to clip to the one right underneath. It's going to clip to the one that one is clipped, the previous one is clipped to. So they're all clipped to the mountain. So it's only drawing on that mountain. So we're going to use the same color again. And this time we are going to go to our, we're going to go to our charcoals, and we're going to use the burnt tree here. And we are going to start, this is at 11%. So we're going to just kind of draw a little bit of a snowy texture and make it kind of like going off the sides, you know. We're going to just kind of make it have some texture. Use light pressure and hard pressure, and you can go down a little bit. Now I'm at 4% here. Oops, that's a little too bright. Just to get some like finer details, you know, like the little nooks and crannies that are in the rocks, because the rocks aren't perfectly smooth, obviously, as you can tell. You know, rocks aren't perfectly smooth, so you want to make sure that you kind of reflect that in your drawing. So we're just going to keep going here, and maybe some parts have more light hitting it than others, and it really adds a lot to your piece when you add these subtle little details to it, you know. Because you could just leave, and you could just make it a simple little line drawing, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Those are gorgeous, you know, where it looks almost like a paper cutout, and you could totally do that and leave it like that, and that would look gorgeous. But this, we're just going to add a little bit of extra to it, you know. And I'm going to keep the brush kind of small on this end here, because we've got, you know, we don't need too much texture right here. I'm going to make it up just a little bit. No, we'll go back to 10%. And we're not going to do a whole lot of texture on this side, because it's going to be, I think, mostly in shadow. And when we do, we're going to just kind of, you can turn your brush to the side, and it'll do a little bit of light. Just a little. See how I'm barely making any marks there? You want to just get the bare minimum there. See, we have a lot of texture right there. All right, So we are almost completely done, guys. All right, now we're just gonna do our final touch. So you can do whatever layer. I'm gonna go back to the sky just so I can kind of keep them together. And I'm gonna do a layer on top. You don't have to do a clipping mask, you can if you want to. And I'm gonna do this color right here. And there are many, many, many ways that you can make clouds. Many ways. You can use the airbrush, the soft brush. You can use one of the charcoal brushes. You can use one of the texture brushes. Or you can cheat and use the clouds. And we're going to cheat and use the clouds today. So I have the brush set at 6%. And what you're going to do is you're going to do tiny little circular motions and do very light pressure, because you don't want to go big. Otherwise, it's going to be like that. You don't want that. You want to build it up, because when you look at clouds, they're kind of wispy and they kind of like trail off. See how I'm making it kind of like trail off, and then I'm going to build up, and they kind of get big in some areas where it looks, you know, you want it to have kind of that natural feel. And you want to build up to make it more white in some areas and then very opaque in others, you know. But make some clouds. And just kind of have fun with the shapes. You can look at some pictures online to see if you can find some clouds to see, give you some inspiration. To see what clouds look like, what they act like. If you've got a really pretty sunny day outside, like we have here, you can just look out your window and see what the clouds are doing. And you can add some gray in if you want to make it make some storm clouds. But don't make them all the same, you know, make them different, make the sizes different, make the shapes different, give them personality. Have you ever looked at the clouds when you were a kid, or even as an adult still, and you see that there's different shapes in the clouds? I always do that, especially if somebody else is driving in the car. I'll look and I'll see like all the different shapes, and I like to do that. I love to look at the clouds and just see the beauty that God has made with the beautiful shapes, beautiful colors, especially sunsets. You know, clouds get really pretty colors where they blend in. This, I actually am sort of, I looked up reference photos, and one of the references I had was, there were white clouds that were on this background. It was an actual photo. So I'm going to keep mine like this. But you can always change that if you want to. You know, it's your drawing. So everybody's just going to have personality, its own personality. And that's the fun thing about art, you know. And please, if you follow along with this tutorial, I'd love to see what you do. So please share with me on Instagram. Use @BlackRose613. Wonder Wednesday Projects is the hashtag. But yeah, I would love to see what you do. If you have any questions, you need any help or anything, leave me a comment. You can always reply to my Wonder Wednesday emails. If you haven't subscribed to my Wonder Wednesday emails already, please go to my website, happily-letterafter.com. And you can sign up for that. You'll get exclusive freebies and deals and sales, and you'll be the first one to know about new tutorials and new things going on the blog and everything. And if you like these YouTube videos, please like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot, and it also helps me know which ones you enjoy, especially if you comment and let me know. But yeah, this is it. We're done. We're done with our landscape. As you could tell, it was a very easy one to do. Feel free to add extra things to your landscape, add extra details. I would absolutely love to see what you create. So please share with me And I can't wait to see what you draw, and I can't wait till the next time when we get to do this again. Take care.